H.
Hassett also maintains the gas price surge is temporary.
A result of the president taking strong action to make sure that these lunatics in Iran don't have a nuclear weapon.
Now, complicating a deal with Iran, its demand Israel stop attacking Hezbollah in Lebanon, but there were more deadly Israeli bombings today. Senators were up all night until this, just before 5 a.m.
On this vote, the yeas are 52, the nays are 47. This bill, as amended, is passed.
Approving nearly $70 billion to fund Border Patrol and Immigration and Customs Enforcement through 2029. Democrats voted no, calling ICE out of control, but the process Republicans used did not let them filibuster and block it. The House considers the bill next. Attempts to include some key amendments failed, including $1 billion for White House ballroom security. A legal challenge trying to stop construction returns to court today. President Trump posted on Truth Social late last night the ballroom is desperately needed in the lawsuits damaging the country. Now something else upsetting the president is name is being removed from the Kennedy Center.
Management has set a deadline of June 12th to make the changes. Last month, a U.S. district judge ordered the name change and blocked the administration from closing the venue for 2 years for renovation.
His name is being taken off the building and all the related documents. That was Fox's Jill Nato. America's listening to Fox News.
We're living through a monetary crime scene, and your IRA or 401k is a key victim. Hi, Dr. Ron Paul here. In 1971, gold was $35 an ounce. After the dollar was cut loose from it, inflation soared. And in just 9 years, gold hit $850. People who diversified into precious metals survived and thrived. Today, we're in a worse position because we face inflation and massive debt. Fortunately, gold is still an option. My trusted friends at Birch Gold Group can help you own gold inside your retirement account. Plus, you pay 0 penalties on the transfer. Start now by getting a free info kit on gold. Text the word SHELTER to 989898. We're facing the same monetary chaos as the 70s with significantly more debt. Get your free info kit from Birch Gold. Just text SHELTER to the number 989898.
The station Delaware and Maryland turns to for local news. Here is another Delmarva News Update here on 92.7 WGMD, WGMD.com, and the WGMD app.
A Delaware bill that would have required long-term care facilities to carry minimum liability insurance coverage will not move forward after being stricken in the state Senate. The legislation was introduced after concerns that residents and families could be left with no legal recourse when nursing home operators face financial difficulties or even bankruptcy. The measure would have required facilities to maintain at least $1 million in liability coverage per claim and $3 million in aggregate coverage for both general and professional liability. Cheer has honored volunteers from across Sussex County during their annual Volunteer Appreciation Awards ceremony. The ceremony was held May 29th at the Georgetown Community Center, the event drawing about 250 attendees and featured remarks from Governor Matt Meyer. 9 volunteers were recognized, with Maggie Smith of the Long Neck Cheer Center named the 2026 Volunteer of the Year. She was awarded for her daily service supporting meals, activities, and fellow senior center members. 2 Wicomico Middle School students are now facing some serious criminal charges after a firearms investigation. The Wicomico County Sheriff's Office learned that one of the students, a 15-year-old boy, allegedly stole a gun from a home in Virginia and then brought it to Wicomico Middle School on June 1st. The boy is accused of transferring the gun to a 14-year-old male student. Deputies recovered the stolen firearm at the younger student's home. Both juveniles have since been taken into custody and referred to the Maryland Department of Juvenile Services. The investigation remains open. The Wicomico County Sheriff's Office says it's working closely with Wicomico County Public Schools throughout the investigation. For these and other stories, visit our website, talkofdelmarva.com. I'm Jared Sorello.
Looking for a new truck? Then head to First State Chevrolet in Georgetown. For a limited time, get 0% financing for 60 months on all Silverado 1500 models in stock. That's right, America's favorite pickup with 0% financing for 5 full years. Whether you need a dependable work truck, a family hauler, or a weekend adventure machine, there's a Silverado 1500 waiting for you at First State Chevy. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Visit First State Chevy on Route 113. We are First State Chevy in Georgetown, where we put you, the customer, first. Together, let's drive.
Listen up, Delmarva anglers. The Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report, 7 days a week after the 6 a.m., 10 a.m., and 4 p.m. news and sports.
The Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report is brought to you by Complete Tree Care, licensed and insured. Request an estimate at CompleteTreeCareDE.com. And Chesapeake Bath and Home Solutions, employee-owned, so every project is personal. Visit ChesapeakeBath.com.
It's time for the Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report with Eric Burnley.
Thursday, the weather was even better, and so was the fishing. Patty at Captain Bones in Odessa recorded a new state record flathead catfish. Scott Failer landed the impressive catch out of the Delaware River at Augustine Beach on a chunk of shad. It weighed a whopping 36.20 pounds. Kevin at Lewis Harbor Marina had quite a day. He caught a nice mess of croaker at Slaughter Beach, then moved to the haystacks off of Lewis, where he landed sheep's head on sand fleas and green crab. Back at work, he saw a flounder caught from the Lewis and Rehoboth Canal on minnows. Hook 'em and cook 'em. Saw the first bluefin tuna of the season hit their cleaning table on Thursday. The big fish were caught south of the Poor Man's Canyon. This is Eric Burnley with your Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Well, if you're just joining the program now, yes, it is your anchorman, Jake Smith, on Digital Interactive Friday, live from a redesigned DS2. I welcome you to our broadcast. If you're watching the broadcast at realnewstalk.com or perhaps Facebook Live, we welcome you to the broadcast. My friends, if you did not hear last night, 4 so-called Senate Republicans united with Democrats to block President Trump's Save America Act. The usual suspects, Collins, Murkowski, McConnell, and Tillis, joined all Demcoms, as I call them, as you know, to block the amendment, needed 60 votes. It seems like before I left for vacation, we were talking about the same thing, my friends, that the Save America Act, I just don't. Well, let's put it this way. I don't think the American people have made their point that they want this legislation passed, and they want it passed right now. And this entire situation, I mean, this is not a government of the people anymore, right? This is a government of politics. And that's what we have right now. We have a broken Congress and a government of politics. Now, our first panelist, Ken Cuccinelli, I don't know if Ken has logged on yet. I'm looking; he has not. So, if he has not logged on, we're just gonna continue getting a 1 minute from the control room here. But the fact of the matter is, my friends, there's been a lot of chatter about the Senate race in Maine. And that the Demcoms are, they're basically supporting a Nazi to replace Susan Collins. But from this taxpayer standpoint, what's the difference between Susan Collins and this Nazi that's running for office, running for the Senate in the state of Maine? Collins never votes with us anyway. She votes with them. She should have a D after her name. So again, I mean, I know there's a lot of political wrangling about this guy, and he's crazy. Let's not beat around the bush or beat about the bush. He's crazy. He's nuts. However, I just don't see that there's a lot of I just don't see there's a lot of difference between the voting. He's going to vote against us. Susan Collins always votes against us. Let's welcome in Ken Cuccinelli. Former Virginia Attorney General. Ken is the national chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative. Ken is a senior fellow for Homeland Security and Immigration for the Center for Renewing America. He most recently served as Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security and Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, under the first Trump administration. Ken, it just seems that they're not getting the message, when I say they, those on Capitol Hill, that the American people, both parties, are demanding the Save America Act, but it seems to be caught up in partisan politics, doesn't it?
I don't even know if it's in partisan politics. It's certainly in politics, but I mean, you noted Republicans voting against it. And Lisa Murkowski has at least explained why she votes against it, even though her explanation is wrong, which suggests to me it's an excuse, because I don't think she's stupid. Now, you were talking about Susan Collins, and I will say this. When I see a Republican in a 50-50 state like Maine, I have a lot more, say, grace than I do with a Tom Tillis or a Lisa Murkowski or a Mitch McConnell, who are in very red states. Mm-hmm. And there's really no explanation or excuse for their votes. Look, the failure to confirm citizenship, forget voter ID for the moment,
right,
is a federal error. This is caused by Washington. It's caused by earlier laws they've passed that were lousy and interpreted by Justice Scalia as causing problems, and only Washington can fix that. So even if you didn't include the voter ID part, which is, to your point, over 80% popular, everywhere in America except the United States Senate, which tells me there's other motives going on,
of Well, yeah, anti-Trump motives. I mean, let's face it.
Tillis
has got an axe to grind with President Trump. So do others. This is an anti-Trump Senate. There's not a Republican control, but anti-Trump Senate, wouldn't you say?
Well, you certainly can't get past 50 without encountering that. Yeah. So the Senate overall certainly is. But this should carry on common sense. And what really drives me crazy is, we just saw some Ukraine aid pass out of the House. Well, Mitch McConnell loves Ukraine aid.
Yeah.
He loves FISA. So, as do some of the war hawk surveillance state Democrats. So attach the Save America Act to FISA or Ukraine aid and truly don't pass it without it. That's called must-pass legislation.
Right.
And must-pass simply means that's how they view it in the Senate. And the SAVE Act has to be attached meaningfully to one of those must-pass items that the overwhelming majority of both parties, often called the uniparty, are going to vote for. And that's where these 4 votes from McConnell, et cetera, really count, because you can add it to those bills.
Right. Well, that's your leverage. That's your legislative leverage, right, Ken?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yep.
Ken Cuccinelli is joining us this morning.
By the way, Jake,
yeah.
You don't just have to win this in the House. I'm sorry, in the Senate. The House just can say, Freedom Caucus, for example, hey, Mitch, hey, Tom, no SAVE Act, no Ukraine aid, no FISA. The House can hold them hostage. And we need the House to do that because the Senate isn't going to do it to themselves.
It's just more evidence that this is no longer a government of the people. It's a government of politics, party politics. To me, that says a lot. That's what the founders wanted us to be in charge, not elected officials to be in charge. And unfortunately, that's what we have today. Ken Cuccinelli is joining us, former Virginia Attorney General. Ken is the national chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative. And talking about election transparency, man, California is an international disgrace, Ken. Tell us your feelings of what's going on right now.
Yeah, Jake, it's a real learning experience. I'm watching Democrat after Democrat commentators really lamenting how bad California is. Just pure incompetence. They, of course, don't think there's any evil involved in sending out mail ballots to vacant lots and so forth. But,
of course not.
but the fact of the matter is they realize how incompetent it looks. And one of the beauties of say, a June 2nd primary versus the November general election is everybody across the country's got elections in November.
Right.
Just like the Virginia redistricting referendum in April. There was nothing else going on. And so the whole world was focused on this. And hey, wait, I thought Spanberger said she was against this stuff. And we used it to crater Spanberger's numbers deeper, farther, and faster than any governor in modern history. So now fast forward a month and a half to California.
Right.
Now the whole world, literally the whole world, is watching California's, I mean, the most amazing thing is to watch the percentage of the vote drop. What you've actually counted drop. They can't count as fast as ballots are coming in, assuming they're being sincere about everything. What a load of horse manure. And, go back 26 years. You and I are just barely old enough to remember Bush v. Gore.
Oh, yes.
And, there were what I'll call motive allegations. Oh, they're being evil about this or that. The key one was that the Democrats were trying to exclude overseas military voters.
Right.
People don't remember that, but they were trying to cut those out. But really what the world saw was that Florida had an incompetent election system. 3 years before, a judge had literally thrown out an entire mayoral race in Miami in 1997. And here they hadn't fixed any of that. They had different methods of deciding in different parts of the state, which is what Bush v. Gore was about. I know I'm being a lawyer here for all your listeners and viewers, but
it's okay.
But that's what Bush v. Gore was. It was a 7-2 Supreme Court ruling, not 5-4. 7-2.
Yeah, the Democrats would love for you to believe it was 5-4.
Yes, they would.
Right. Yeah.
Including Sor Loserman. Remember that one? But the ruling was 7-2 because they were deciding election questions different ways in different parts of the state. And what the U.S. Supreme Court said, that violates due process, that you have to have the same standard everywhere in the state.
But the big difference between Florida and California, Ken, Florida fixed it. They've
That's
got the
where
best
I was
election
going.
system in the country.
They spent 3, 4, 5 years, to their credit.
Right, absolutely.
They were firing incompetent people, addition by subtraction, and they changed their laws. And now all of the comparisons you see are, gee, Florida counts 10 million votes in an hour from the closing of the polls, and they count all the rest of them by midnight. Why does it take California a month? And by the way, in a presidential cycle, the Electoral College meets 5 weeks after Election Day.
That's right.
Four of those in California are taken up counting the votes. There's no time to deal with discrepancies, actual fraud, etc. I mean, this is Banana Republic stuff. Frankly, Banana Republics count faster.
Ken, this, unfortunately, you're right. This is an international disgrace. But we know, Republicans know, when the counting goes on longer, Republicans usually lose.
How about that?
Right?
That?
Yeah.
What a
Isn't
mystery.
Ken, we've got to take a break, but when we come back, we're back with Ken Cuccinelli, former Attorney General for the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're talking election integrity and the disgrace that California is to this nation. Also, we're going to be joined by Commander Gregory Stenstrom, who's written a book on filing his own briefs with regard to election integrity in Pennsylvania because no one wanted to represent him. He's going to be joining the conversation as well when your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday continues. I hope you can stay with us.
This weather report is sponsored by Bell House Medical, helping you age in place with mobility scooters, devices, and home modifications. Bell House Medical, 302-644-4404.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Daytime highs approaching 91 today. Under mainly clear skies, winds out of the west, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows level off around 67 tonight, mainly clear. High of 94 tomorrow, a mix of clouds and sun. Slight chance of rain showers Sunday. Highs level off around 90. 79, sunny skies Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Right now, it's 79 degrees.
Heath Pierce, former U.S. men's national team player with stops in the Bundesliga, MLS, Denmark, and Sweden. You can predict the Summer Soccer Showcase action all the way to the final match with FanDuel Predicts. All you have to do is sign up to get your $25 bonus. From the opening game to the final whistle, stay locked in with every pass, every goal, and every moment that moves us closer to crowning a champion. Sign up for your $25 bonus on FanDuel Predicts. Go to FanDuel.com/predicts to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/predicts to get your $25 bonus. Listen to Orange Slices, sponsored by FanDuel Predicts, wherever you get your podcasts. Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant, 18+. The bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with our consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus offer terms.
Spring is the season to refresh your investment strategy. The question is, has your portfolio outpaced inflation? Let our team help you retire with clarity. Herman Financial Services since 1992.
Securities offered through Osaic Wealth Inc. Member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Osaic Advisory Services, LLC, Osaic Advisory. Osaic Wealth and Osaic Advisory are separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth and Osaic Advisory.
On this Father's Day, remember the moments that matter. From bonding road trips to garage projects, at Meineke, we take care of your car so you can focus on making memories for all the drives ahead. Happy Father's Day from all of us here at Lewis Meineke.
Views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and not necessarily the staff, management, ownership, advertisers, or sponsors of WGMD.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday continues as we continue our discussion with Ken Cuccinelli, former Virginia Attorney General. Ken is the national chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative. I'm not sure how much time they're going to spend on California. Perhaps we'll ask Ken about that. Ken, before we get to some questions that have been posted for you on our Dial Interactive board, your thoughts about what's been going on outside of Delaney Hall in Newark, New Jersey, because evidence is mounting of the organized nature of these riots and rioters. Why do you think haven't these organizations been infiltrated by the government? Certainly they infiltrated January 6th. That was okay. And why can't we get to the bottom of who's responsible for these ICE riots? And that's really what they are, aren't they?
Yeah, and even Governor Mickey, is that how we say her name?
Mikey.
New Jersey?
Mikey.
Mikey. Hey,
Yeah.
Mikey. She likes it.
Remember Life cereal? He
Oh,
likes
I
it.
do,
Hey, Mikey.
yes.
That's how you
Oh,
remember.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, Mikey, she don't like it. But the fact of the matter is, she expressed surprise. Oh, gee, 5 out of 6 of the people we've arrested aren't from around these parts. In fact, they're from Portland, Oregon. Oh, how about that? Who'd have thunk it? Other than all of us. And so arrest 600, you'll get 500 from out of state. Really, the arrest numbers are too low. I will say that they've at least involved local and state police. That makes sense. But look, I got the most extreme complaint I got about an ICE facility was, and you may remember it, the ACLU complained about the Georgia women's facility. Oh gosh, they're impregnating them, they're doing this, and they're taking their uteruses out and all this kind of stuff. 27-page complaint, and about a half a page had any basis of accuracy, and none of the extreme stuff. What was accurate was, hey, this is way out in a rural area and it isn't easily accessible by medical personnel. Right. Well, yeah, thanks. I have a map too. So, but that is a logistical challenge. These are human beings. They're not packages. We treat them with the same kind of dignity and respect we do anybody in a jail or prison anywhere. They're human beings. This is not, the old euphemistic Turkish prison. And what I'll tell you from my experience is 98% of these complaints are horse manure. And it's turning out, Tom Homan goes up, surprise inspection. They didn't know he was coming. He goes straight to the cafeteria and he eats with them. Oh, how about that? All the food complaints, false. All the medical complaints, false. Overcrowding complaint, false. Built for 1,000, housing 800. It's just made up. So why is it happening at Delaney? Well, it's happening at Delaney because it's a blue district, blue jurisdiction, and they didn't believe they'd get any prosecutions, much less the 6 arrests. And I don't know what the updated arrest number is. But that's an old number. But that's why this doesn't happen in Texas, because it can't happen in Texas. It doesn't happen in Florida because it can't happen in Florida. Because those governors, even in Austin or even in the most liberal city of Florida,
great point.
Ron DeSantis would fly in there and have a shield on himself.
Yep. That's a great point.
That's why it happens in Minnesota and Oregon, California, Seattle, because it can't happen elsewhere. They need they need acquiescence. They need local government accomplices, and they've got them.
Ken, it's incredible that this is going on, but it is, and it's something that we have to deal with. I know that you've got a hard out coming up in just a couple of minutes, so let me get to these 2 questions that have been uploaded by our Dial producers for you. First one from Rocket Man: will you ever run for Virginia governor again? If the Demcoms keep control of Virginia, the state will be toast. And you say?
Well, I would never say never. But I will say that Virginia's politics have shifted to the left for a unique national reason, and that is Washington, D.C. and an unbalanced budget. When we get a balanced budget amendment requirement, Virginia's going to get its politics back. But until then, we keep moving big government people into Northern Virginia from California, Illinois, Massachusetts. And guess what? They vote like they're from California, Illinois, and Massachusetts. And they're skewing Virginia's politics farther and farther to the left. That is a unique problem. Maryland is already a trash bucket, so it doesn't really affect Maryland. But it does affect Virginia, and it has for the last 25 years. And by the way, you can't blame that on the Democrats. That is a bipartisan problem. Republicans have caused it just as much as Democrats.
No one can argue that, Ken. Next question: why aren't we getting mass deportations as promised? This has been asked. This is being asked by Big Cat. Go ahead.
So, part of the answer is that Noam paid no attention to this. And when I say this, the process of deporting a person is a long, complicated pipeline with logistics, law, and resources all involved. And they all have to be well and thoroughly coordinated. And Noam was more interested in press impact than in management nitty-gritty. Nobody gets asked about this. Noam wasn't asked. Mullen wasn't asked in their hearings. Nobody asks about the unsexy management requirements of being a good DHS secretary or a good head of ICE. But they are absolutely critical. Think of it as FedEx, but with the dignity and human care responsibilities that I described earlier for that entire pipeline. That is a big burden. It's complicated, but it is doable. And until, we've got an administration that's willing to focus the resources and the political will now. They didn't in the first Trump administration.
Right.
But they're going to have to focus really hard on the nitty-gritty of cleaning out this pipeline so that it runs smoothly. And then you'll start to see big numbers. We really haven't seen them yet.
Ken, before you go, there was a question from Big Cat. Why doesn't President Trump veto the FISA bill unless it has the SAVE Act attached to it? You brought it up earlier. That's leverage that the president has, right? Or,
yes, he does, and
Okay.
I hope he would. I don't know why he wouldn't, especially when it's been used on him. But I got to jump, Jake. Good to be with you.
Ken, thank you so much for your time. We'll be talking to you again at some point. Thank you. You're watching Your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday with your anchorman, Jake Smith, behind the shiny golden microphone. We're going to take a quick break. We did not have with us Commander Stenstrom. He confirmed yesterday, but was nowhere to be found this morning. I don't know what to say, but we'll hopefully get him on at some point in the future. Back on Your News Talk America in just a moment. Stay with us.
Here is the marine forecast from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center. Sunny today with highs topping out near 86 degrees. And on the water, winds turn to the south, 5 to 10 knots by afternoon. Seas 2 to 3 feet. The current water temperature is 65 degrees. At Cambridge, high tide 7:56 a.m., low tide 2:57 p.m., high tide 8:24 p.m. And at Rehoboth Beach, high tide 11:54 a.m., low tide 5:45 p.m., high tide 12:16 a.m.
Hey guys, it's Rob Carson of the aptly named Rob Carson Show. Weekdays from noon to 3. Now on the Talk of Delmarva's 98.5.
This WGMD Fox Business Update is brought to you by Sussex Environmental Consultants. For a healthy home, call 302-947-1810.
I'm Susan Lee, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stocks opened mostly lower, but the Dow started the session higher after yesterday's record close. Investors are looking at a much stronger than expected report on the job market for May. There were 172,000 new jobs created. Healthcare hiring remained strong, and leisure and hospitality companies were adding staff. The unemployment rate remained at 4.3%. Chip stocks continued to lose ground today. Lululemon shares opened down 10%. The athleisure company is lowering its outlook for the year after disappointing sales and product launches that fell flat. Shares of Bodycote, a major supplier to the auto industry, are down 11%. Apollo, the investment firm, has pulled back on plans to take over the business for $2 billion. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Costello. Invested in you.
Need life insurance but have diabetes, high blood pressure, or on anxiety meds? If you're a 50-year-old male, even porky, or with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of life insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. For affordable term life insurance, call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-444-2013, 800-444-2013, or visit BigLou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. 800-444-2013.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
My friends, the war in Iran took a 2-week break. It's supposed to be a 2-week break, but it's become a 8-week break. The Iranians are, without question, rearming. That's what they do, and we could not have expected them to do otherwise. But this morning, I was talking about General Jack Keane was on Fox this morning, and he's a war hawk. We cannot skip around that topic. General Keane likes war. He lives war, breathes war, and he wants this country to be at war. I'm not the only one who feels that way. However, this morning, I think he was right on the money with regard to, we got to run out of patience here with Iran. Now, maybe we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. President Trump does, his team does. But we're going to talk to our next panelist, Mike Brest, defense reporter at the Washington Examiner. Great to have you aboard again, Mike. What are your thoughts about what's going on in Iran? It just seems that the nation is getting a little antsy. We're looking for some type of resolution here, and the Iranians are in no hurry to give it to us, right?
That's exactly right. We're sort of in this holding pattern where Iran is continuing to block the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. is continuing its counter blockade of Iranian protests. And so right now, neither of those things have changed. And it seems like the administration is approaching this in a 2-phase idea. The first phase being they need to get the strait reopened. And so the strait getting reopened is important, obviously, for the economic ramifications that its closure has had. And so I think part of it is the president wants to make a deal sooner rather than later, in part because he doesn't want to see gas prices rise and this continue to have a downward effect on the economy. And Iran, as you said, is not really interested in giving the president a win.
Well, I mean, the Iranians have to present something to the Iranian people that continues to drive fear into the minds and the hearts of the people that living in the country, that they still they want to be feared, and they do not want to come out and say, well, we've just signed a peace treaty with the great Satan and we're going to be friends now. The IRGC is not going to do that. The Ayatollah is not going to do that. So if that's the case, isn't it about time we went back to finishing the job here?
So that's the hard thing, is what finishing the job could really look like and what it may entail. And
Right.
so the U.S. dropped more than 13,000 bombs in this war during the hot part when they were bombing Iranian soil. And so given the fact that the IRGC was not destroyed and the IRGC is still in charge, the regime is still in place, the question is, what would it take to fully dislodge them? And so there are people that I've spoken with that believe it would require ground forces. And so the president has long talked about how much he dislikes the forever wars, as he calls them, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think what has always been a concern of his is to make sure that the U.S. does not end up in a situation like that. And we've heard Secretary Hegseth, who served in those wars, talk about how this is an entirely different battle. The question becomes, if the ultimate goal is completely eradicating the IRGC, what would that take?
President Trump mentioned yesterday that if any American service member, U.S. service member, is killed, that the war would resume. But I would have to point out that there was a attack a couple of days ago on the airport in Kuwait by the Iranians. Should we not consider that attack on Kuwait, who is a strong ally of the United States, as a reason to respond and carry out what we should have been doing 8 weeks ago, and that is finishing Operation Epic Fury?
I think you raise an interesting point, which is that the president essentially said that it would take a successful Iranian attack for him to decide to restart the war, whereas they have fired at U.S. Navy vessels in the Gulf of Oman, near the Strait of Hormuz. They have tried to attack commercial vessels, and U.S. Navy ships have come to their defense. And in those cases, the U.S. forces often will respond both on the fast boats that are firing these drones and missiles, but also on land targets.
Right.
And so the question is, should the president wait for a successful Iranian attack to restart Operation Epic Fury or a subsequent military operation, or does the fact that they're carrying out any attack at all warrant that?
Mike Bress is joining us, defense reporter at the Washington Examiner. A question was raised yesterday in President Trump's impromptu press briefing with the media yesterday in the Oval Office, that there were only two countries who could successfully remove the enriched uranium from Iran, and the United States being one of those countries, China the other. I don't see any way that President Trump is going to let Xi Jinping get his hands on the enriched uranium that could still be existing under those mountains that are just basically rubble right now. What do you think about that?
So the president, in that same vein, said about 2 weeks ago that he would not be comfortable with handing the enriched uranium off to either China or Russia. So it's hard to envision a scenario like that. And I think those two countries came to mind in part because of their relationship with the Iranians. So in theory, giving it to an Iranian ally to store could appear to be a middle ground. The question is whether or not both sides would trust that intermediary country. But I think the highly enriched uranium is an important topic because really that's what this war, when it began, was all about. And so for your audience, the Iranians are believed to have more than 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium, which was in one of the three, or divided amongst the three nuclear facilities that the U.S. military bombed last June. And so the belief is that the highly enriched uranium is buried under these underground facilities that the U.S. destroyed. The question is, how do you get it, and what condition is it in?
Right.
No one knows because no one's been down there, and so it's not necessarily a mission that the military can do alone. And so part of it is you need experts and scientists, and likely the IAEA or a similar agency, to actually be there on the ground to handle the material. And so any sort of operation to recover the highly enriched uranium would take some time and would likely be a very long process. And so part of it is it's hard to imagine a scenario where the U.S. would do it without some sort of agreement with the Iranians, because it would be a significant threat to those involved if the Iranians were not supportive of such a plan.
The situation with regard to the uranium itself, I mean, this has been going on now for a year. This has been a question for a year. And I think at some point there's going to have to be some type of resolution on this, because if the Iranians do not have access to that uranium, or the uranium's been destroyed, or it has been removed from the country by the United States or by the international, the IEA, whatever that agency is, it escapes me right now, Mike. But the American people want an answer to this. We want a resolution to this at this point. Would you agree?
I agree, and I think it's hard because I'm not even sure the Iranians know the exact status of it. And so it's hard to imagine a world in which the nuclear question gets resolved before the Strait of Hormuz, given the timeliness the Strait of Hormuz has on the economy on a day-to-day basis, and it continues to seemingly get worse.
Our listener producer Wolf just posted a question for you, Mike. Before we go to break, I want to get that question to you. How much of Iran's missile capacity is still intact, and how long can the IRGC hold out? Good question.
So the truth is, it is next to impossible to know exactly what Iran's capabilities still are, but the fact that they are still firing drones and missiles like we saw at the Kuwaiti airport is an indication not just that they still have some munitions available to them, but that they are able to successfully launch them. And so one concern that I've heard from experts about whether the U.S. restarts Operation Epic Fury, or another one is what happens when the Iranians decide to retaliate, and what if they decide to try and escalate? The most logical topic or targets would be oil or energy infrastructure all throughout the Gulf. And so we've seen those types of facilities be targeted once or twice. But if the U.S. decides to escalate above and beyond Operation Epic Fury, in which they would go after critical infrastructure in Iran, there is reason to believe that we could see the Iranians respond in turn against U.S. allies that have helped them during this conflict. And so there's concern in those countries about what a resumption of military operations could look like and mean for them specifically.
And there were reports yesterday I read where the Iranians are looking for longer range missile technology that will carry their warheads to the United States. That's what they're looking for.
It's interesting because I think they are trying to, as the U.S. is trying to resupply the troops and the Navy ships that they have in the region, right. Iran is also trying to resupply and even trying to, as you said, improve their technological advances that they have displayed in the last couple months of this conflict.
Mike Rest, defense reporter of the Washington Examiner, is joining us on your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday. We need to take a break. We will be back with Mike in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Thank you very much.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Daytime highs approaching 91 today. Under mainly clear skies, winds out of the west, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows level off around 67 tonight, mainly clear. High of 94 tomorrow, a mix of clouds and sun. Slight chance of rain showers Sunday, highs level off around 90. 79, sunny skies Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Currently 81.
Coast to Coast AM overnights with George Noory on WGMD's 92.7. Mike Bradley mornings on WGMD.
Have you looked at your
trees lately? Really looked at them? Complete Tree Care has a 76-foot lawn-friendly lift and specializes removing hazardous trees, dead wood, or removing that limb that has been worrying you. Best of all, our estimates are free. That's right, free. Have our trained sales specialists give you a written proposal. So make sure you visit us on the web at CompleteTreeCare.us. Call Complete Tree Care 302-947-2273, 302-947-2273.
Happy birthday to you at In-N-Out Tire and Auto. They're celebrating you. Stop by during your birthday month and enjoy a free oil change on them. That's right, no catch, just their way of saying happy birthday. Schedule your appointment at InandOutTires.com or swing by In-N-Out Tire and Auto on Vets Pond Road in Millsboro. In-N-Out Tire and Auto, keeping your vehicle rolling and your wallet happy since 1995.
It's that time of the year again. Are you prepared to protect your home and family in case of a power outage? Hi, I'm Mark Fry with Shager & Gas Company. Call Shager & Gas today to see how Generac Power Systems can protect your home and family. Shager & Gas will install a fully automatic Generac generator based on your needs. You can power essential items or the entire house. When you have a Generac generator installed by Shager & Gas, you will have peace of mind, comfort, and security in your home. Call Shager & Gas Company today at 644-7700 or stop by our Rehoboth or Millsboro locations for more information.
Mike Bradley and the WGMD morning team is up well before the crack of dawn to deliver you all the latest news and pertinent information to start your day. Beginning at 5 a.m. weekdays here on 92.7 WGMD, Delmarva's news talking sports station.
One blood donation can help save many lives. Give blood today. Call the Blood Bank of Delmarva at 1-888-8-BLOOD-8 or visit delmarvablood.org. For information, go to the Community Outreach under the Extras tab at thetalkofdelmarva.com.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Digital Interactive Friday continues. I'm your anchorman, Jake Smith, back from vacation. It's great to be back at the rebuilt and redesigned DS2. Very pleased with that. And again, thanks to Julia Snerdley and Walt Palmer for their hard work while I was away. Quite a surprise to come into the new DS2, the new and improved DS2. Now, our guest, Mike Brest, defense reporter for the Washington Examiner, we lost him. He's not back. I'm trying to get him back, and we'll see how that transpires. What I was going to ask Mike was this question, and if you did not see on the news just a couple of days ago, Russia hit Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, perhaps harder than it's ever been hit before. And there are renewed calls now for a ceasefire. Well, the damage has already been done, and the damage is being done. Now, Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is now proposing a face-to-face meeting, negotiations directly with Vladimir Putin. First time he's ever mentioned that. In addition, it's also been mentioned that perhaps President Trump would act as a mediator between the two, much as Pakistan has been mediating between Iran and the United States. We'll see if that happens. Now, one of the problems that we are seeing with Cuba is that it's very similar to Iran in that we expected the Cuban people to revolt against their regime. Well, similar to the Iranian people, that's not happened. And I was hoping that that our guest, Mike Brest, defense reporter for the Washington Examiner, would be able to give us an update of what's going on with Cuba. And there's a lot going on with Cuba. Yesterday, the United States imposed sanctions on Cuban's President Miguel Diaz-Canel, along with his wife and 3 other individuals. That was reported in a filing by the U.S. Treasury Department. So now the administration is going after the Cuban regime, and much in the way that they went after Maduro. Now, this is not military action to remove physically the president of Cuba, Miguel Diaz-Canel, but clearly he and his family are being targeted. Also included in these sanctions are Alejandro Caspin Castro Espin, the sole son of former President Raul Castro and Vilma Espin. He served as an advisor to Cuba's Defense and National Security Commission when he was president, when Raul Castro met with former U.S. President Barack Obama back in 2016. So these sanctions come after President Trump signed an executive order expanding sanctions against the Cuban island and has been threatening military action since the ousting of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. We know that criminal charges have been filed against Raul Castro, Fidel Castro's brother. That has been going on. But again, if we are awaiting an internal uprising in Cuba, the way we are awaiting an internal uprising to get rid of the regime in Tehran, my friends, it's not happening. And I realize the administration has perhaps put a lot of increased importance on the citizens of those countries being responsible for the actual regime change, but it's not happening. It's not happening in Cuba. It's not happening in Iran. As a matter of fact, in my show notes today, I put a story from the Washington Examiner on the U.S. sanctions against Cuba, the Cuban President Canal and his family. That's on my show notes for this morning. Now, another thing that has transpired just in the last few days is there has been a resumption in U.S. military attacks on suspected drug boats in the Pacific. We're going to see more of this kind of thing, and you know Judge Napolitano is against this. He feels that we are acting like a banana republic when we go and sink these suspected drug vessels, and that the people that are being killed don't even have the benefit of being arrested, brought to justice, what the United States Constitution says. So they're being killed outright by a decision by the United States government. There are some who are not happy with that. Let's put it this way, we have not been shown evidence beforehand that these boats are actually carrying drugs. And you say, well, Jake, they've got to be carrying drugs. Well, they could be carrying other things as well. That could be carrying other illegal contraband. It doesn't have to necessarily be drugs. So again, this is also going on, and I'm sorry that we lost Mike Brest. Not sure why, but we're going to continue on. Now, Wolf had posted a question for Mike Brest with respect to Cuba, asking, does the current Cuban regime have a year left before it collapses? I don't think it does. Am I a foreign policy expert? No. But Cuba right now is just it's just a mess. And those sanctions have really hit the Cuban people. Maybe they will rise up. They haven't thus far. And are they going to rise up in the future? I don't know. They haven't in Iran, and to expect them to do so, my friends, just might be unrealistic expectations. Now, having said that, wanted to tell you about another concern, and we brought up the issue just a little while ago with Mike Brest about the oil situation, the Strait of Hormuz and so forth, and that not being settled yet. There's another problem that surfaced, and that is oil inventories. In other words, oil that is ready, gasoline that's ready to be shipped, diesel that's ready to be shipped here in the United States is at decades-low levels. Not because it's not available, but because we are exporting so much oil around the world. And we've got a return panelist coming on, Kenny Stein, Vice President of Policy, in the next hour, of the American Energy Alliance. And my friends, you remember, if you lived back in 1974, and I talked about if you were driving back in 1974, if you were alive back in 1974, you remember sitting on long lines for gasoline. And those gas lines came back when Jimmy Carter and his incompetent administration came to power. We were back in 1979 waiting on gas lines. It changed our lives, didn't it? Now, I asked the question, and I broached the topic in the first hour, were you odd or even? For those of you old enough, remember what that was all about. And when we were buying gasoline based on odd and even days to cut down on the lines. Are those days coming back? Well, we're going to find out from our return panelist. He's coming up with us in just Kenny Stein in the next hour. But crude oil inventories, listen to this. This is important. In the United States, have decreased by 8 million barrels during the week ending May 29th. That's last week, according to new data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration. Man, how many departments and agencies does this government have? The U.S. Energy Information Administration. Why can't the Energy Department do that? Isn't that what we're paying them to do? Anyway, the decrease brings commercial stockpiles to 433.7 million barrels. That's according to government data, which is now 3% below the 5-year average for this time of year. And remember, the summer driving season is here, my friends. And if our oil inventories right now are at critically low levels, that's not a good situation. Now, the data release follows the American Petroleum Institute's figures that were released a day earlier, which reported that crude oil inventories saw a drop, listen to this, of 6.75 million barrels in the period. Now, I pulled that off oilprice.com. It's a great website, my friends, by the way, oilprice.com. You can monitor the price of oil. It's updating constantly. The latest news with respect to the oil industry, oilprice.com. I love that website. U.S. commercial crude inventories have erased their entire, listen to this, 2026 build in just 5 weeks. In other words, everything that the Trump administration has done to make the United States a powerful oil-producing country has been wiped out in 5 weeks with massive strategic petroleum reserve releases masking what otherwise would have been a far steeper supply drawdown. Wow. So we're going to find out what this means for us, and will we be sitting on gas lines again? I don't want to sit on gas lines again. I'm sure you don't either. But if you remember what it was like, as a matter of fact, let's see if we can pop in to dial and see if anyone remembers or recalls on the dial chat room, the dial lounge, of what it was like to sit on gas lines back in 1974. I had just gotten my license when all this started. Boy, was I ticked off. Let's see if we're getting any chatter here as I make my way down. Let's see. Oh, Jethro says, Jake lights up our day like a blue pool. Well, thank you. Looks like Jake is live in front of new reflecting pool in D.C. Yeah, President Trump is really excited about that new pool in the Lincoln by the Lincoln Memorial on the Mall. He's really excited about that. Okay, so I don't see any. Rocket Man is in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. No gas lines. Okay, well that's good because the gas lines may be coming back to a service station near you. I can remember back in 1974 when you saw gasoline trucks on the road heading for a delivery at a gas station. You would follow that truck and wait till they made their delivery. You would get online because the gasoline station would not have had gas. They would have had their no gas sign out. Remember those days? Well, they could be coming back. We're going to find out with Kenny Stein coming back up after the news break, coming up at the top of the hour. Your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday is going to continue in just a few moments. Stay with us, will you?
92.7 WGMD Rehoboth Beach. And 98.5 WUSX Seaford. The talk of Delmarva.
It's a sign of the Trump golden age. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what the National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett tells Fox after double the hiring that forecast for May, 172,000 jobs.
Another thing that is probably not going to make the headlines, certainly not in the fake news, is that the numbers keep getting revised up.
April's hiring went up to 179,000 jobs. In March, up to 214,000. The unemployment rate stayed the same last month, 4.3%. And President Trump posted on Truth Social, with a great jobs report, stock should go up, not down. But there is selling. The Dow's falling 112 points. The Nasdaq's plunging 478. As for higher gas prices in the Iran conflict, Hassett also tells us.
The good news is that when we've seen gas disruptions like this in the past, they've always been temporary.
The price at the pump's been falling, now down 34 cents from the peak last month. AAA's national average for regular $4.22 a gallon now. Making talks to end the conflict more difficult, Iran keeps demanding Israel stop attacking Hezbollah. But Fox's Jeff Paul reports from Dubai.
Israeli forces and the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah continue to exchange strikes here in the UAE. The longer things go on without a potential peace deal between the U.S. and Iran, the more fear grows here in the Gulf that Iran could continue lashing out at its neighbors.
The Senate just before dawn this morning voted to approve nearly $70 billion to fund Border Patrol and immigration enforcement. Controversy swirling around Graham Plattner, the Democrat trying to win a seat in the Senate in Maine, where Fox's Alexis McAdams reports.
Ex-girlfriends of Graham Plattner speaking out to the New York Times, saying that he was volatile and toxic. One woman said that he twisted her arm, shoved her into a room, locked her in that bedroom, and said she couldn't come out until she had calmed down. Plattner says, listen, these allegations aren't true, but I wasn't a good boyfriend.
There are some allegations in this piece that I just want to be kind of unequivocal about are simply not true.
That's Graham Plattner on MS Now. America's listening to Fox News.
We're living through a monetary crime scene, and your IRA or 401k is a key victim. Hi, Dr. Ron Paul here. In 1971, gold was $35 an ounce. After the dollar was cut loose from it, inflation soared, and in just 9 years, gold hit $850. People who diversified into precious metals survived and thrived. Today, we're in a worse position because we face inflation and massive debt. Fortunately, gold is still an option. My trusted friends at Birch Gold Group can help you own gold inside your retirement account. Plus, you pay 0 penalties on the transfer. Start now by getting a free info kit on gold. Text the word SHELTER to 989898. We're facing the same monetary chaos as the 70s with significantly more debt. Get your free info kit from Birch Gold. Just text SHELTER to the number 989898.
Delmarva's home for local news, 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD. The talk of Delmarva.
The news is brought to you by Wings to Go Long Neck. Open every day at 11 a.m. Order on DoorDash or call 302-947-9444.
The Delaware State Police investigating a fatal single-vehicle crash in Bridgeville. Troopers say it happened just after 9 Thursday morning south of Apple Tree Road when a Toyota Sequoia was traveling south at a high rate of speed. When it passed a vehicle in a no-passing zone, the driver failed to negotiate a curve, causing the vehicle to overturn and go off the west side of the highway. The driver, a 17-year-old girl from Lewis, was not wearing a seatbelt and was ejected from the vehicle. A 4-year-old passenger also in the vehicle. Police confirmed the child was properly secured in a safety seat and was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Authorities continue to investigate after a body was found in a wooded area behind the Dover Department of Motor Vehicles. The Delaware Capitol Police called to the scene on Transportation Circle shortly before 10 a.m. Thursday. DelDOT employees reporting the body behind the building. Capitol Police detectives and Delaware State Police working to determine the circumstances of the death. Officials say there's no evidence of foul play and no ongoing threats to public safety. Drivers in western Sussex County will soon see a change in their commute. DelDOT says the bridge carrying Coverdale Road over Gravelly Branch in the northeast corner of Middleford is scheduled to reopen to traffic in mid-June. When the bridge reopens, drivers should be prepared for a new traffic pattern. The structure will be limited to a single lane with stop signs at both ends to require drivers to take turns crossing the bridge. In addition to the lane change, DelDOT's implemented new weight restrictions for the bridge. The maximum weight limit, 21 tons, though exact weights may vary in the vehicle's type and axle configuration.
WGMD AccuWeather.
Mostly sunny for this Friday, 85 at the beach, 92 inland, partly cloudy tonight, low 68. Partly sunny, very warm tomorrow, 87 at the beach, 94 inland. Intervals of clouds and sun on Sunday. Heavy storm in the afternoon possible. They could bring flooding downpours and locally damaging winds. 83 at the beach to 90 inland. Sunny and windy and less humid on Monday. More on these and other stories. Visit talkofdelmarva.com. I'm Jerry Lademan in the Talk of Delmarva News.
Craving wings? Head to Wings to Go Long Neck, now under new ownership, where flavor meets freshness. Choose from 29 sauces and dry rubs. Enjoy traditional or boneless wings, always cooked to order. Try cheesesteaks and their popular soft-shell crabs. Conveniently located at 25938 Plaza Drive in Millsboro. Open daily at 11 a.m. Call 302-947-9444 or order on DoorDash. Wings to Go Long Neck. Simply great wings since 1985.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Our favorite day of the week, Digital Interactive Friday. And your anchorman, Jake Smith, back from vacation. And I am very pleased to welcome our next panelist here to your News Talk America. His name is Kenny Stein. He's the VP of Policy for American Energy Alliance. And before we get to Kenny, I wanted to punch up a phone call here from a listener, Ray. Ray, you remember what it was like to wait on gas lines back in the 70s, like many of us had to do, right?
Jake, during the 70s, I owned a property in southern Maryland, which was rated as a farm. We had a contract with Amazon, High Valley, which is in Virginia, south of Washington. I could call and give 24 hours notice, and I could get a delivery of 600 gallons of gas. And during most of those deliveries, this is crazy, the gas they would deliver was supposed to be regular. The drivers would say, I've got to deliver high test to you because our tanks are overloaded, but we're charging you regular prices. That's what I ran into in the Carter administration. So now the biggest holdup for me was the fact to get the gas out of that tank. Right. I had to pump a little handle.
Right.
But there was no problem. So I, my father, my wife, my mother, we're all filling our tanks up.
Well, that's a great story. But many of us didn't have,
like I said,
yeah, most of us didn't have that ability. So we waited on those long lines in 74, and then those long lines in 79, thanks to Jimmy Carter's incompetence.
Okay. But what drove me crazy was the fact that you're telling me that your tanks there at Harbor Valley, those big, huge tanks, are overflowing, and people are waiting at gas stations. Something was.
Well, yes, and
right, trying to be proven by the government.
Well, Jimmy Carter told us that we would be out of fossil fuels by, I think, 2011. Isn't that true, Kenny?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I think he said 2011 that we were going to be up. Ray, thanks so much for calling in and giving us your perspective on that. But we were told that we'd be out of fossil fuels by then, and no one would be able to heat their homes and so forth. Kenny, I was just going over some statistics that I had read from the American Petroleum Institute and the government itself. And our crude oil inventories right now are dangerously low. I know President Trump is telling the world, come and buy jet fuel from us, come and buy gasoline and diesel from us. But the fact is right now that we could be waiting on gas lines again in the not too distant future because the summer driving season is here. What do you think?
Well, so the concern isn't gas lines. It's not that we are going to run out of oil. We produce a lot in this country, so the flow of oil isn't in danger. But the problem is that it's those inventories that are for sale to the highest bidder. They're freely traded. Anybody can buy them both in the United States and overseas. And so the problem is when you start getting lower inventories is that the price is going to go up because you still, even though you're
Supply
getting
and demand.
Right,
It's supply and demand, Kenny. Yeah.
Right, you're getting lower inventories, but you still have just as many customers for those reduced inventories. So the concern, the alarms that are being sounded here is not that we're going to run out of oil. It's that we're going to have to raise prices a lot because we're running into supply constraints.
And we're talking, that's West Texas Intermediate is the oil that we use here in the United States, right? Not Brent, it's West Texas.
Right. Well, that's the main That's the main pricing for the United States. We produce different types of oil in different parts of the country.
Right.
But yes, we typically price based on West Texas Intermediate, which the pricing for that is done at Cushing in Oklahoma, and that's actually a place where they are getting down to inventories that are so low that they're going to start having trouble emptying the tanks because some tanks don't have a valve all the way at the bottom, so they can't even be fully emptied. So they'll still have oil in the tanks, but they're just going to start having trouble getting it out to process if inventories continue to fall.
So your thoughts on where we are right now? I noticed I was out of the country for a couple of weeks, but when we came back, I noticed that gasoline's come down a little bit, but where I was in Europe, and I was doing the math, unleaded regular, not diesel, but unleaded regular was over $8 a gallon. Of course, they sell it by the liter, and you do all the currency, the currency figures and so forth. And I was in 4 countries I checked. It was over $8 a gallon, Kenny. Is that what's in our future here?
Well, we're not going to be in as dire a situation as Europe, and that's because of our own domestic production. Europe has largely shut down their domestic production outside of maybe Norway still produces, but pretty much other than that, they've been aggressively shutting down their production, and this is the consequences of that. And that's the thing for people to keep in mind. I mean, I know it's hard when you look at the gas pump and how much you're spending, but we actually are doing much better than pretty much anywhere else in the world, and that's because of our domestic production. It's the ingenuity that we've and the shale boom that we've had over the last 15 years.
Oh yeah,
it's really insulated us. Now it doesn't fully insulate us because ultimately oil is priced on a global market, so that's why our prices have gone up. But they have not gone up nearly as much as in Europe or in India or in Japan. So that's something to keep in mind. I know it's cold comfort sometimes if you're paying too much at the pump, but we are safe. This is why I say we're not in danger of true shortages. The shortages in the 70s, actually, the caller actually highlighted what caused the shortages was actually price controls. There was no shortage of gas. It was that the Carter administration was requiring gas to be sold for so little that nobody wanted to sell it because it wasn't worth the effort. So that's why you could have overflowing tanks while you, in certain places, while you had lines at the pump. And so, hopefully we are not facing that in the future. That there's always people that want to do price controls, and that's always a bad idea because that's how you actually get the shortages.
That's and the first thing that Reagan did when he came into office was get rid of those price controls, and then the oil companies wanted to start looking for oil and developing applying for leases and developing oil properties, right?
Right. Well, and that's actually a key point right now. There are some people in Congress who are suggesting, well, we should stop exporting oil from the United States because in theory,
they said the same thing in 74, they
right.
said the same thing.
Right.
They didn't want us to export oil. Right.
The problem is that if you stop allowing oil companies to export in the United States, they're going to stop production. Because it is relatively expensive to produce in the United States. The only way that make it worthwhile is if they can sell at the highest price. So it's some of the interventions that people are suggesting will do nothing to help gas prices at the pump, absolutely zero, but will do a lot to screw up the industry and our production going forward.
Kenny Stein is rejoining our panel. Kenny's been on with us a number of times, Vice President of Policy, American Energy Alliance. Kenny, back during the 1973 Arab oil embargo, many of us remember oil tankers being anchored off the coast. I lived in New York at the time, and they were just sitting there waiting for the price of oil to go up. And when the price of oil went up, those tankers would come in and offload And it made the American people quite angry because it was on the news. It was plain as the nose on my face that those tankers were just waiting. Could we see a similar situation when those tankers that are now anchored in the Strait of Hormuz because they can't go anywhere? Could a similar situation happen, do you think?
Well, it will be interesting whenever the strait gets opened and all that oil floods back onto the market. It will be interesting to see if some of those cargoes are held back and by OPEC countries to support the price rather than a sudden price crash. It's possible that will happen. The thing is, though, is that because of the way the refining process works, there's a lead time from when oil gets on a ship to when it actually gets to your gas tank. And it takes a while for that work through the system. So there's less chance for arbitrage there just because there's such a need right now. The industry will consume any oil it can get at pretty much any price right now.
So your advice to us is not to panic and don't worry about an odd and even system to get gas, right? We're not worried at that point yet.
No shortages. Prices are probably still going to go up. So I'd probably think about efficiency, limiting your driving, but we're not going to run out.
All right. Well, we're not going to run out, but it is the summer driving season, Kenny. It's underway. It's here, right? Kenny, thank you so much for coming on and just calming our fears about keeping track of whether we have an odd or even license plate.
Yep.
All right, Kenny, thank you so much. Have a great day. You're watching Your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday. We're going to be talking Iran and also anti-Semitism, Jewish hatred. That's all coming up next on Your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday. You watch the program at realnewstalk.com, Facebook Live. Back in just a moment.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Mainly sunny this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 91. West winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mainly clear skies again tonight, 67. Highs level off around 94 tomorrow. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. High temperatures reach up to 90 Sunday with a slight chance of rain showers. 79 sunny skies Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center along the coast. Right now, 80.
Hey guys, it's Rob Carson of the Rob Carson Show, now on the Talk of Delmarva's 98.5.
News on the hour on WGND.
This 11 a.m. Wellness Minute is locally brought to you by Pam Health Rehabilitation Hospitals. A fall, a fracture, a joint replacement. Orthopedic injuries can change your life in a moment, but with a right recovery plan, they don't have to define it. After surgery or trauma, healing doesn't stop at the hospital door. That's where acute rehabilitation steps in, helping you regain strength, mobility, and independence. At Acute Rehab, patients receive intensive therapy at least 3 hours a day, guided by an expert team of physical therapists, occupational therapists, nurses, and physicians who specialize in rehab medicine. Whether you're recovering from a hip fracture, knee replacement, or spinal surgery, Acute Rehab is designed to get you moving safely sooner. Orthopedic recovery takes more than time. It takes the right team. Ask your doctor if Acute Rehab is the next step for you or a loved one, and remember, you have the right to choose the level of care that's right for you. Visit PamHealth.com today.
A beautiful and lively garden creates a welcoming home full of family, friends, love, and laughter. Let the entire family here at Sandy Hill Greenhouses bring your garden to life.
Our locally grown makes for happier, healthier plants that are not only vibrant in color, but will last all season long.
Locally grown also means that we're able to keep our costs low and our inventory high.
Drive a little further and go home with a lot more. Visit us on Sand Hill Road in Georgetown.
Or call 302-856-2412.
Views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and not necessarily the staff, management, ownership, advertisers, or sponsors of WGMD. The Maryland primary election is June 23rd, with early voting June 11th through the 18th. A friendly reminder from your local election station, 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD, the Talk of Delmarva. The Sean Hannity Show, weeknights at 9 on WGMD's 92.7.
Broadcasting from the Mighty Geek Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The The Talk of Delmarva.
Your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday continues, my friends. And I have to tell you, I am very, very worried about what's going on, not only here in the United States, it's quite serious, but in other parts of the world as well. A story just in the New York Post a couple of days ago. And listen to this. A 23-year-old Jewish woman was assaulted Sunday on a C train, that's a subway train in New York City, by a raging sicko who shouted, quote, "Jews are eating kids," unquote, at her and ripped out a chunk of her hair, my friends. If you go to NewYorkPost.com, you can see this picture of this woman's hair that's been pulled out. She did nothing. Her only crime is she was Jewish. The fact is that incidents of violence and terror continue against Jews in America. When will every American take a stand against this? When? The problem is too many Americans agree with it. So does Rashida Tlaib, by the way, but we'll get to that later. Jewish hatred in America has spread from the Middle East. It is here, my friends, and it's bad news. As a matter of fact, a link to this story on the New York Post is in my show notes for today at realnewstalk.com. Rabbi Michael Barclay is joining us. Rabbi is returning to the panel. We're so pleased to have him with us. The host of the radio show and podcast, The Rabbi's Table, Dialogue, Not Debate, on CRN Digital Radio, where he leads bold conversations on religion, freedom, Israel, America, and today's most pressing cultural issues. Rabbi, it's getting worse every day. Did you see that story that was in the New York Post?
I actually saw it and saw a video of it on Sunday. And good morning, and thank you for having me again.
Thank you, Rabbi.
It's despicable. It's despicable that Mondami made no comment about this. At least as of last night, he still had it. Right. 4 days later, look. She's mentally ill. She has a history of mental illness, but it's reflective of the popularity of visceral hate against Jews.
No question.
And it is scary. It makes one, as a Jew, it makes the words of America Hane seem, 50 years ago, seem more prescient, where he said every Jew should have a 22. I mean, it's really gotten to that kind of place. It's really scary.
And it has spread to this country from the Middle East. I mean, this is Jew hatred, Rabbi, that has spread to this country, and it's even being expressed on the floor of the House of Representatives.
You're 100% right. I don't know that it's been spread from the Middle East. It's been here, and it's been popularized by people ranging from social influencers like the Jew-hating Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes and those, and then also by the politicians Tlaib and Omar, who still have never said October 7th was a bad thing. And that's who these people are. And this is in our country. And it's reflective also, I think, that we need to be aware that there's a special hatred in the Quran for Jews. It's described very specifically. And a lot of this has to do with being the flames being fanned by the Islamic Sharia law supporters, the people who want to make this country into a country of Sharia law. That's a real big piece of it. The Jews are being attacked first, but what starts with Jews never ends with Jews.
No question about it. Absolutely. And if you think, well, I'm a Christian, I'm not worried. They want us dead too. Correct, Rabbi?
Yes, they do. I'd say, we got to be fair. That's not actually what it teaches. It teaches that for infidels, kafar, like you and I, you don't have to be killed. You can also be converted or enslaved. Those are both okay options as well from the Quranic point of view. So
Rabbi, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were finished.
No, I just said so. It's scary. It's a very dangerous time.
The situation in the Middle East right now, a 2-week pause in the war to try to hammer out and negotiate something with the regime in Tehran has turned into 8 weeks. President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu had a nasty argument a couple of weeks ago with regard to Israel's actions in Lebanon. Actually, I agreed with those actions in Lebanon, by the way. However, Where do you think the Jewish community is right now in where they see what's not happening in Iran? Do Jews around this country, do they feel that we should finish the job that we started back in April? What do you think, Rabbi?
I think we need to remember that there's a truth to the old statement that 2 Jews equals 3 opinions, 4 synagogues, and 5 rabbis. So to say what do the Jews think
Never heard that
is
before.
a little hard. Any intelligent human being, Jewish, not Jewish, realizes that this being dragged out of Iran is just Iran's stalling technique. They have 47 years of showing their nature.
Absolutely.
And they are who they are. They're an Islamic regime that when they came into power, when the Ayatollah first came into power 47 years ago, he didn't make comments about Israel. He didn't make comments about Jews. He made comments about the fact that, and did speeches about the fact that, isn't this great? There's finally a caliphate that can be formed in Iran to take over the world. This is not a fight against Israel. This is not a war against Israel. And how anyone portrays it that way in the media is just oblivious and not aware of things. I think the challenge is President Trump is a great leader who's listening to multiple people. And unfortunately, one of the people he listens to is Steve Witkoff, who has whatever his agenda is. As opposed to he should be listening to Marco Rubio all the time. But he's a great leader. And he's trying to juggle these things. We need to finish this. And the sooner the better. They have now discovered that there's 28 miles of underground tunnels that Iran has built and put their weapons cache in, put their nuclear development program in. They're very, 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 very deeply. Every day is another day of stalling. Iran has shown who they are. It's the story of the scorpion and the frog. Iran's nature is Iran's nature by virtue of what their beliefs and values are, and we really need to get this done already.
The situation with the neighboring Gulf countries, and look at what happened to Kuwait the other day, where their international airport was hit by an attack by an Iranian drone. Do you think that the region is any safer at all since Epic Fury, Rabbi?
I hope it is. Maybe that's a better way of phrasing it. I don't know that it is. I hope it is. I know that the vast majority of people in Israel want to finish the mission and have wanted to for a long time. Bibi and Trump, Trump made the analogy, they're family members, they get in fights, but they support each other typically. We need to really support the idea as Americans. This 8 weeks, it's just been 8 weeks for Iran to rearm. And they're going to come out again. They're very clear what their intention is, so we need to believe them. They want not just Israel, they're very clear and have been for almost 50 years, they want America destroyed.
Yeah.
From within and out. So I don't quite understand the question, and I really don't understand how anyone can hate Jews so much that they're oblivious to the fact that this is not an attack on Jews, this is not an attack on Israel, it's an attack on Western civilization.
No question about it. No question about it. Rabbi, I want to thank you. And again, for those who want to listen to your program, your podcast, The Rabbi's Table, Dialogue, Not Debate, how can they do that?
I appreciate it. Just go to therabbistable.com, and there's shows that are posted up there. We do them each week. We have some amazing guests, Alan Dershowitz, Robert Spencer, great people, and hopefully you at some point. And I really appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you, Rabbi, and I'm so pleased to have you back on the program. We will have you back again, and let's hope and pray that this situation is resolved. The longer it drags on, the worse it is for the world, I believe.
I agree.
All right, Rabbi Michael Barkley, thank you so much. God bless you, Rabbi. We'll talk to you soon.
God bless you and your audience. Take care.
Thank you. You're listening and watching Your News Talk America. I'm going to take a break and back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Here is the marine forecast from the Talk Up Delmarva Weather Center. Sunny today with highs topping out near 86 degrees. And on the water, winds turn to the south, 5 to 10 knots by afternoon, seas 2 to 3 feet. The current water temperature is 65 degrees. At Cambridge, high tide 7:56 a.m., low tide 2:57 p.m., high tide 8:24 p.m., and at Rehoboth Beach,
High tide 11:54 a.m., a low tide 5:45 p.m., high tide 12:16 a.m.
Proudly serving the nation's summer capital and the White Marlin capital of the world. 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD.
This WGMD Fox Business Update is brought to you by Sussex Environmental Consultants. For a healthy home, call 302-947-1810.
I'm Susan Lee, and this is the Fox Business Report.
The May employment report was stronger than expected. 172,000 new jobs were created. It's encouraging news for the economy, but interest rates have moved higher. Yields on U.S. Treasuries rose, and there's anticipation the Federal Reserve will not be cutting interest rates in the near future. The sell-off in chip makers continues today, dragging down the NASDAQ. Bitcoin's price has slipped below $61,000 this morning. JP Morgan, Chase, Citi, and other big banks are planning a new tokenized deposit system, their answer to crypto. It's expected to help banks compete with stablecoins and crypto firms. There are upbeat comments today about Viking, the cruise company, from analysts at Melius Research, who cite the resilience of its demand. Though Viking shares today are narrowly lower. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
Need life insurance but have diabetes, high blood pressure, or on anxiety meds? If you're a 50-year-old male, even porky, or with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of life insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. For affordable term life insurance, call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-444-2013, 800-444-2013, or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. 800-444-2013.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
There we go. Digital Interactive Friday continues. As I mentioned at the outset at this broadcast, that DS2 has been re-engineered, rebuilt, new furniture. I thank, again, Julia Snerdley and Walt Palmer for their hard work. Boy, I got a photograph that was sent to me while I was on vacation from Walt of DS2 stripped of everything, just bare walls. And I'm like, whoa. How is that going to be rebuilt before I get back on the air? However, it was, and it's beautiful, and there's a new background, which we can see you can see the Lincoln, the Washington Monument with the World War II memorial there. It's wonderful. I want to welcome to the program, and let me just pot him up right here, Professor Murray Sabrin, PhD. A Mises Institute Associated Scholar and Emeritus Professor of Finance at Ramapo College in New Jersey. We he loves when I do that, Dr. Sabrin. It's countdown at 250. We're celebrating 250 years of American independence. And this morning, Dr. Sabrin, you're going to talk about Richard Henry Lee of Virginia. But before we do, I want to ask you, because you were a professor of economics, finance. What did you think about the jobs numbers that were released today? Double what the estimate was. Is that a good or bad thing? And why is the market in a downward spiral after those jobs with this jobs report?
Well, it's always good that people are working, because that means that they're less susceptible or less prone to get taxpayer dollars. Because it means hopefully they're doing something productive. I didn't do a deep dive and see where those jobs are. Healthcare jobs have been skyrocketing because
most of these jobs apparently were in the healthcare field as well, Dr. Sabrin.
Yeah, we need more service jobs that help people improve their lives. Now, of course, healthcare supposedly is going to help people improve their lives, but we need more manufacturing jobs. But for the average person, they don't care about these numbers. They care about how am I doing with my job? How am I doing with my business? Am I earning enough money to pay the mortgage, pay the rent, buy gasoline, and do the other things I need to do in order to have a decent standard of living? It's only the economist, because this is the legacy, Jake, of the Great Depression, that we think the government's responsible for the health of the economy. The government can only undermine the economy by taxes, regulation, and endless wars.
So you are of the belief then that the socialist government, and we do have a socialist government in Washington, don't we, is kind of a hangover from the Great Depression?
Well, it's more of a fascist economy if you look at it. In fact, in the mid-'70s, there was a wonderful book published by an economist, Charlotte White, entitled America's Emerging Fascist Economy. This is 51 years ago. So people back then, and even during the Great Depression, there were people calling Roosevelt's policies fascistic. In fact, people compared Mussolini's Italy with FDR's America, and guess what? They were similar in terms of policy, where the government was involved in business decision making, which they shouldn't be involved at all. That's not what the founders thought of revolution, to have the government take over or get involved in business decision making. And unfortunately, this has been a pattern that's continued for decades. And here we are today with people really upset about what's going on. And that's why I issued yesterday, Jake, the Declaration of Re-Independence. It's on my Substack. We issued a press.
You did finally get that out there, huh?
We did. It's June 4th. So it's called Re-Independence Day, I call it, because I outline all the grievances the American people have. People may not agree with all the grievances, but certainly the vast majority of Americans will agree with most of the grievances in terms of taxes, spending, debt, inflation, endless wars, healthcare freedom issues that are very prominent in a lot of communities around the country. All the things that the government has done that impacts how businesses operate, how people can organize themselves. And this is why I think there's so much angst in this country on both sides of the aisle. And from in our lifetime, Jake, we've seen government grow no matter who's in office. That's the real issue. This is not a partisan political issue. This is a fundamental philosophical and constitutional issue.
We're going to talk this morning about Richard Henry Lee of the great Commonwealth of Virginia, who introduced a resolution in the Continental Congress that proposed the colonies are and of a right ought to be free and independent states.
This was the culmination between Thomas Paine's Common Sense in January and all the agitation that was taking place in the colonies, plus the military issues that were occurring throughout the colonies. The Continental Congress was made up of people who understood the fundamental premise of what it means for self-government, that no taxation without representation, no warrantless searches, all the things that are supposedly the bedrock foundation of a free society. The Continental Congress said we need to break away from Britain. And of course, there was opposition by people who liked the relationship between the colonies and Britain because they were making money with all the regulations and trading that was going on. So again, you had this conflict, and eventually the pro-independence forces won out, and June 7th. And there's an important point to bring up here. Delegates to the Continental Congress were instructed by the colonial governments to vote the way the colonial governments wanted. They weren't free agents to vote so-called their conscience or the way they wanted to. They were really agents of the colonies, just as the U.S. Senate originally were agents of the state legislature, and then that was overturned by the 17th Amendment in the early 20th century. So instead of having a Senate that represented the states and the House representing the people, you now have two institutions, the House and the Senate, that are voted upon by the people. And that's and I believe that has been a very important ingredient of the growth of government for the past 120 years.
There's no question. The 17th Amendment has been disastrous for the Republic, Dr. Sabrin, in my opinion.
It absolutely has, because the legislature could recall a senator saying, you're not doing what we want you to do. And then politics would be decided at the local level, as opposed to right now it's being decided at the federal level. And so how many people have the ability, the authority, the means to go to Washington to lobby their representatives? No, they have all these lobbying groups. And that's what's sucking so many resources out of the economy.
it was on display last night where the Save America Act did not pass the United States Senate because of party politics shenanigans. So realistically, those Republican senators that voted with the Democrats last night could have been recalled by the state legislatures because they were not committed to the will of the people. Man, Doctor, I have to tell you this 17th Amendment has been a disaster. Every U.S. senator, whoever goes to the Senate, they're in there for life, and it's a lifetime position like the Supreme Court. There's no way to get rid of them unless you carry them out of there in a box. It's unfortunately that's what it is.
Well,
right?
This is the evolution of America from a relatively limited government republic, even though there were encroachments by the federal government, really since the beginning of the Constitution from 1788 on. But it really exploded in the 20th century. And this has to go back to the progressive period from 1880 to 1920, where there was agitation for a lot of things like prohibition, like the income tax, like high tariffs, and all the other things that made government grow and grow and grow. And by the time the Great Depression hit and Hoover started to use the power of the federal government, and then Roosevelt did the same thing, government just grew, and the culture of Washington and the country changed, where now people look to Washington to solve problems that should be addressed at the local issue, primarily through the free market and nonprofit organizations, the so-called mutual aid societies, which were flourishing before the Great Depression. And then people look to the federal government to do with all these spending programs. And then, of course, we've got Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, which made more people dependent upon the federal government. And we know these programs are unsustainable based upon the projections of how the trust funds will run out of money and benefits will be cut. So again, this was inevitable based upon the demographics of the country for the past 90 years. And so we're dealing with a problem that no one wants to address in Washington, which is too much spending, not following the Constitution. And the founders had a good vision. Unfortunately, it was corrupted almost from day one during the Washington administration, and then it just built from there. And so here we are 240 years later, so to speak, from the time Washington was inaugurated to today, where I think the founders will be appalled at what's going on in Washington today with all the spending, endless wars.
Well, what about the fraud? What about the trillions of dollars stolen from U.S. taxpayers?
Well,
they've only accounted for $1 billion, but it's trillions that have been stolen from us, Dr. Sabrin. That's taxation without representation, isn't it?
It's worse than that. If you don't have these programs, you can't have Medicare fraud. If you don't have Medicaid, you can't have Medicaid fraud. This is how the people in Washington cleverly changed the rules of the game, where now they were in charge of our health care, housing, transportation, all the things that historically have been provided by the free market. The entrepreneurs of America, the unsung heroes of America, who created things like, how many people know that the thermostat was created by a black woman in New Jersey around 1920 that made life bearable? Unfortunately, it made it bearable in Washington, D.C. so they could stay there over the summer instead of going back home.
And also, look at the damage that she did to climate change with that thermostat to keep us warm in the winter and cool in the summer, right?
Oh, this is why there are so many entrepreneurs who never get any play, who never get any monuments to them. We have monuments of presidents and other people, but these are the people that made life bearable in America, people who helped create farm equipment that made crop yields greater, people who did things for the automobile that made it easy for us to travel better, airplane travel. Of course, the people who created retailing, J.C. Penney. Sam Walton was a protege of J.C. Penney, and these are people who understood how to get goods to the population, and they did so.
You left out Colonel Sanders. How could you leave out Colonel Sanders, Doctor?
Well, I used to do Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't do it anymore. But we love Panera. We go to Panera quite often.
Oh yeah, Panera's that's pretty good. Maybe they'll advertise on this show now that we mentioned them. That
absolutely,
might be a bad
absolutely. Give a plug for Panera.
So tell us where we can access your new Declaration of Independence.
It was posted on my Substack, murraysabrin.substack.com. And I'm also going to put the press release on that was sent out to all the media yesterday as well. And the press release just has a nice compact statement of why I did this redeclaration, because it's important that the American people understand we cannot continue on the path that we've been on for the past 100 years.
It's unsustainable. It's unsustainable.
It's unsustainable economically, financially, morally, psychologically, and socially. And that's why we need to go back to first principles. And that's why I'm so committed to this mission in my post-retirement years to do something for the country and leave a legacy that will say, 1776 and 2026 were the two most important dates in American history. July 4th, 1776 and June 4th, 2026.
Dr. Murray Sabrin, it's great to have you back discussing Countdown to 250, celebrating 250 years of American independence, but we want more independence from Washington, don't we, Dr. Sabrin?
Well, that is why we had the bloody, destructive revolution that gave us the country. And remember what Benjamin Franklin said when he was asked, "What did you create here?"
A republic,
he said,
if you can keep it.
And unfortunately, that republic has been undermined for decades.
Dr. Sabrin, thank you. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next Friday.
Hopefully, I told your assistant that I can't make it 11:30. If we could do it earlier at 10 o'clock, would be great.
We will work it out.
Okay,
we
great.
will work it out. I'll be in touch with Victoria, and we'll work it out, okay?
Thanks so much, Nick. You have a great week.
You too. Thank you, Dr. Sabrin. You're watching Your News Talk America. Salute the troops coming your way in just a moment. Stay with us.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Mainly sunny skies this afternoon with highs around 91. Winds out of the west, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mainly clear again tonight. Lows level off around 67. A blend of clouds and sun tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 94. Highs around 90 Sunday with a slight chance for showers. 79 clear skies Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Frobley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center inland. Right now, 82.
Join me, the Rehoboth Foodie, on Saturdays from 2 to 4 at WGMD 92.7.
Here is important information you should keep in mind while enjoying the many platforms of the Talk of Delmarva. If you contact the Talk of Delmarva by telephone, text, email, other electronic means, U.S. mail, or in person, you give us your implied and express permission to record, air, and or post your communication at our discretion. The Talk of Delmarva shall have the right to publicize and broadcast your name, likeness, or voice without compensation to you. Due to contractual obligations, the Talk of Delmarva does not provide transcripts or recordings to the public. If you have questions or comments regarding this policy, please email programdirector@wgmd.com or write to Program Director, Post Office Box 530, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware 19971.
Hi, I'm Tim, and I'm a principal with Giuliani Associates. A building can look impressive, but if it doesn't work, it costs you every day. Customer flow, staff efficiency, operational performance. We design commercial facilities that are built to work and built to grow with your business. As Delmarva expands, your building should support what's next. Giuliani Associates. Architecture is an investment. Design a better Delmarva.com. Design a better Delmarva.com.
This is the Rehoboth Foodie. WGMD listeners know that Newsmax insider columnist Michael Hurd and I occasionally sit in weekdays for Mike, Jake, and MJ. Dr. Hurd is a mental health professional and a weekly self-help columnist in the Delaware Beaches newspaper. Be sure to check out Dr. Hurd's most recent books, Grow Up America and Bad Therapy, Good Therapy, available exclusively at drhurd.com. That's drhurd.com.
Honor those men and women who have defended freedom whenever and wherever it was threatened. The Talk of Delmarva presents Salute the Troops.
Salute the Troops was saddened to learn of the death of an active duty soldier who was supporting Operation Inherent Resolve. Sergeant Devin A. Siebel, age 26, of Robinson, Texas. died on May 31st in Erbil Air Base, Iraq, during a training-related incident. The soldier was assigned to the Air Ambulance Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Combat Aviation Brigade, based at Fort Carson in Colorado. Salute the Troops honors the ultimate sacrifice of United States Army Sergeant Devin A. Siebel. If not for Siebel's commitment to serve our nation defending freedom and liberty whenever and wherever it is threatened, this nation could not. This nation would never have remained free. For Salute the Troops, I'm Jake Smith.
As a family member or friend, you may be the first to notice when a veteran you love has been going through changes. Things like withdrawing, drinking more, or increased anger could be a sign of a larger health concern, but help is available. Listen to hundreds of inspiring stories at maketheconnection.net and learn how you can support the veterans in your life. Treatment works. Recovery is possible.
Broadcasting from the Martin Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Approved DS2. I have to apologize to Wolf. He had posted a question for the rabbi, and the question was, why isn't the Democrat Party and its front groups being sued for civil rights violations? Wolf, I have to be honest with you. This is my new mouse that Snerdley gave me. It wasn't working, so I couldn't get access to your question. I apologize, and I'm sure that the issue will be resolved after the show today, so my apologies to you. However, I can, hopefully, get access, and I want to get to some of the comments that were made in the Dial Lounge this morning. Producer Vanessa, and now the Dems are standing by Plattner. Is he really the best that they can do? They have polling information, Vanessa, that tells them that Plattner will beat Susan Collins easily in November. That's why they're supporting him. That's why they're throwing their weight and their money behind a real Nazi and someone who has apparently been active in his private life away from his wife, if you catch my drift. Some of his former girlfriends have come forward, giving an interview to the New York Slimes, saying that he was physical with them, he was really not a good guy, and so forth. Remember, the Me Too movement is only when it concerns a Republican. This guy is a dirtbag, but the Demcoms want him because he will beat Susan Collins. Now, from my perspective, and tell me if I'm wrong here, folks, what's the difference? He's going to vote against any Republican legislation anyway. He's already said that if he wins the Senate race and goes to Washington. Susan Collins votes against Republican legislation all the time. I mean, what the hell's the difference between Susan Collins and Plattner from a voting perspective? Is there any difference? Wolf, Democrat Party inspired anti-Semitism is a national disgrace. Vote them out. And again, Wolf said, why aren't these front groups being sued for civil rights? Well, and as a matter of fact, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to ask that question to Rabbi Barkley, who's based in Los Angeles. However, UCLA, I believe, is going to wind up paying out quite a bit of money to Jewish students who were denied access to their classes, to the library. Remember when all that was going on a couple of years ago? They're going to pay, and they're going to pay big time. Is it possible? It just seems to me, and I'm going to ask Jonathan Feldstein the next time I talk with him, Jewish people, I believe, have this inner barrier towards anti-Semitism. Do they hate it? No, but they accept it because they feel it's just part of what a Jew living in the world has got to put up with, that the world is going to hate you for being Jewish. But that woman who had her hair pulled out by this crazy woman on a New York City subway train a couple of days ago, did she expect to be treated like that? And that woman was a terrorist. I'm sorry. She was a terrorist. It was interesting that when Nancy and I were on our cruise, and we were in the same time zone as the Middle East, and Jonathan Feldstein and I we're good friends. And Jonathan being in Jerusalem and me being here on the East Coast of the United States, the time difference can sometimes be problematic when we're trying to contact one another. But when I was on our cruise and I was texting back and forth with Jonathan about something, I said, this is the first time in my life I'm in God's time zone. He thought that was funny. I thought it was funny as well. All right, let's get to the phones and see what you have to say. We got time for, let's see, about maybe a couple of phone calls. Go ahead. You're on your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday. Are you watching the broadcast?
Will Lincoln, yes, I'm listening to it.
Oh, okay.
It's Will in Lincoln, and I'm actually in Milford getting gas, but I wanted to give you 5 stars very quickly, and congratulations with the most funny belly laughs with Dr. Mary Sabrin, a personal friend of mine since the early 1990s. I've been in his room, know how popular he is, and for all 3 of us to be laughing at his explanation on the 17th Amendment, which, of course, is academically very accurate, but you're a very wise person. That's why I'm giving you the 5 stars out of 5 stars.
Oh, well, thank you.
Hosting him and to adjust your schedule for his, I think is brilliant by you, WGMD. You have the best show, Jake. I just want people to know that's why you're getting 5 stars out of 5 stars for a consistent, outstanding performer, a proven winner.
Wow, thank you very much. And now you can confirm you're not waiting on a gas line in Milford, Delaware, right?
No, I just finished refueling while I was waiting to come online with you, so that's actually very good. So bless you, Jake, and your wife, Nancy.
Thank you.
And for your dogs that are happily home. We understand each other.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on the broadcast and calling in. 5 stars. Wow. I never dreamed that I would be given that. Go ahead, caller. You're on your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday. Are you watching the broadcast?
Jake, this is Tom, Sweatshirt Tom. How are you, sir?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Hey, Jake, I want to share a quick story with you, and then I'll let you go.
All right.
A friend of mine's son has just become a licensed commercial aircraft pilot.
Wow.
The other day, he's been doing it for about a year, but there's a new sequence that came into play, and he was asked by the flight attendant to him and the captain to come back to the seating areas because there was a VIP that would not conform with the rules of shutting off their electronic devices for them to take off. So they went back there, and the individual put up a stink as far as not wanting to shut off her laptop. And finally, the pilot said to her, "Ma'am, if you don't, we can't take off, and you have one or two choices. You can either leave or you shut off your machine." Jake, I just want to let you know who that was. It was Elizabeth Warren.
What a surprise. Pocahontas refused to turn her laptop off, huh?
She did not. Well, she thought that she didn't have to.
Of course
I'm
not.
just
And these are the same people. These are the same people when we were waiting on 4 and 5 hour lines to get through security last month. They were bypassing security. They were going through. They were letting us wait on lines, and they were bypassing security. Same people. By the way, when you get on an aircraft, the captain is the boss. And if you don't think that's
exactly,
you're going to find out because the captain's going to say, "Out of here." Sadly.
Right.
All right.
Let me tell you, the trainee said, "Boy, I wonder if I'll ever see this again." Jake, God bless you, brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's an interesting story. I hope that you enjoyed my monologue this morning on a flight attendant that we had. Nancy and I had Ellie when we were coming back. 57 years as a flight attendant. I told her, you deserve the Congressional Medal of Honor for putting up with all this word. I'll use that word, starts with an S, but that's exactly what the poor woman said. She said she's seen it all in her 57 years. I believe she has. And my friends, we paid a lot of money and went first class and so forth. I don't want to be a coach anymore. I just don't want to deal with the nonsense. And some woman was walking back they were boarding, and she said to her son, "Wouldn't it be nice to be up here with these people?" So I looked at her, I said, "Ma'am, do you know how much money I paid for this seat? You wouldn't pay that for this seat." She goes, "Oh, you're probably right." With that, I want to remind you, you have a voice. Make sure your voice is heard loud and clear. Millie, Triel, we miss you, but you're home. Have a great weekend. Be back at it again Monday morning on Your News Talk America. Have a great weekend.
Official talk radio station of the White Marlin Open, WGMD Rehoboth Beach, Ocean City, and WUSX Seaford, Salisbury.